Welcome to our webinar meeting with the title Public Opinion in Albania and the 15 July coup attempt. Does FETÖ continue its activities? 4 years ago, Turkey witnessed the bloodiest coup attempt in its political history. 251 people were killed and more than 2,000 people were injured while they were trying to protect the democracy. Today, we will analyze the latest developments in Albania, Southeast Europe region, and in the world regarding the fight against FETÖ. Let me introduce myself. First of all, I'm Duygu Leloğlu, Communication Counselor of Turkey in Athens. And let me introduce my guests. His Excellency, the Ambassador of Turkey in Tirana, Ahmet Murat Yörük. His Excellency, retired Ambassador of Albania, Abdi Baleta. And Director, author, columnist, Mr. Armand Bora. So welcome to our meeting. Let's start with Mr. Bora. Mr. Bora, Albania condemned strongly that night of coup attempt in Turkey. But today we witness that there is still FETÖ presence in the country. How do you explain that? Why is that?
First of all, let me thank you for your invitation, and I want to tell you that I'm very, very pleased to participate in this discussion and to share my opinion about the 50th of July. As you know, now I'm a theater and movie director and a playwright too, and I'm not coming here in this conversation from a political or historical or economical background, but as a man of the theater, I'm an active citizen, and of course I pay a lot of attention to what happened in my country and near it. There is no doubt that the 50th of July has earned the spot in the history of modern Turkey. And we can analyze it from different points of view. But for me, to tell the truth, I feel as a swimmer in the river, not in the sea. You have said that 215 martyrs and 2,000 injured in this history is difficult to talk because it's a big emotion. It's something that is different to explain for me that live not in Turkey, but we are not indifferent. We have some ideas what happens there. First of all, I have an important question about these 215 martyrs. The question I asked myself was, what was the powerful inner force that pushed them towards the sublime sacrifice? They were not just wandering on the bridge, we know that. They were against a coup attempt, coup d'etat en français. A risk of the death was present under their foot, I think step by step, in their breath. And I want to know what happened with them. This has been in my mind for quite long now. What if it was me in similar circumstances, I thought. What could possibly be a strong motive to make me react in the same way? Would a German, French, Italian, Polish, or a Greek citizen had made the same choice? I'm not sure, but what we know for fact is that those 215 citizens did that. I want to know what was the motive that led them towards this choice. This was my question, for which now I have some sort of theory that I want to share with you. This is my most important thing that I want to share with you, to see if my idea is right, if I have find the right response for this question. I know each of them probably have different reasons, but what they all had in common was responsibility. I'm sure you know the quote, the people have the leader they deserve. But I do not agree with that. I believe that a nation follows their leaders. They do the same as their leader does. And in this sense, a citizen could show responsibility only when their leader has shown that level of responsibility. And what strikes in Mr. Erdogan's speeches is that he makes himself accountable for the destiny of the people he leads. You know, I believe the meaning of the word amanet. In Turkish is emanet, and in Albania is amanet. Is a Turkish word in the Albanian vocabulary. Unfortunately, wasn't used enough in Albanian. Dear friends, in my opinion, diplomacy, for example, is profession, but politics is a mission. It should be an amanet. The nation to the leader should be an amanet. Students to teachers, patients to doctors, customers to commercials should be an amanet. And when the President Erdogan sees his position as an amanet rather than a privilege, when he shows responsibility, then it is only natural that his citizens will do the same. It's reciprocal. It's quite absurd to expect our society to be responsible when our leaders are the opposite. Mr. Erdogan's governing model is unfortunately unique and rare in the modern day politics. It would be very useful if this important event serves as a promotion of this model of governing and citizenship. We need responsibility in our leadership, and I think that this is the right moment to start talking about it. To find solution how we can change the model of our society. I think that in this history, there is not only problem. I think that there are a lot of things that we Albanian or the other people, the other society near Turkey can learn from this history, and together to start to change the relation, to put them in the other level, and to find a solution for the problems that the July 15 show for you and for us. Thank you for the moment.
Okay, thank you very much. Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador Baleta, how can you explain yourself the presence of FETÖ in Albania, even if that we had the coup attempt in Turkey, and we are saying to the world since then that it's a big threat, not only for Turkey, but also for the world?
To the coup d'etat. To tell you the truth, up to the moment of the coup d'etat, we here in Albania didn't hear the term FETÖ. We learned that after what happened that night and what happened afterwards in Turkey. The problem is that we saw all the Turkish activities in our soil as activities done by a friendly country, by a friendly nation, by a friendly organism. So it was a little bit surprised. We knew here that we had some schooling installations, and we appreciated that, especially at the moment when they were open. That's why in Albania there was another perception, not as strong as in your country. It took time to understand what was happening. In Albania, the situation is a complex of factors in evaluating what happens in other countries. We have suffered too much from importing problems that rise outside Albania. Historically, we had to deal in our soil with problems that were created outside Albania. That's why many Albanians don't pay attention. Many Albanians are careful in appreciating that. There are people who are interested in cultural activities, schooling activities. That's why we have the situation here a little bit complicated. And maybe from outside, sometimes there is no understanding what in Albania the situation is like that. That still Turkey has to warn Albania of the danger of FETÖ in Albanian soil. I consider that the right of Turkey to do. Our authorities are reluctant sometimes in taking measures. Our authorities here and our society, our press, our television screens are under pressure of the defenders of human rights worldwide, as you know. That's why we have this situation here in Albania. But that doesn't mean that we don't understand the right of the Turkish government, of the Turkish state to take measures and to warn the friends of the danger. It will take time to do something. It will take time to understand something. And it needs common efforts from both sides to explain patiently, because we don't want the smallest misunderstanding in that sense. With regard to the coup d'etat, I have heard of the experience of Turkey in that field since I was a student in 1960. The first coup d'etat, and since that time, I think there were 5 or 6 coup d'etat or attempts for coup d'etat in Turkey. The latest one shocked us because we considered that stability was strong in Turkey. After the elections, after Prime Minister, then President Erdogan took measures to stabilize every field of life in Turkey. Personally, I didn't expect that this will happen again. It happened. It was, in my estimation, a classical coup d'etat in the classical form. Army against the power elected. When I say army, I know part of the armed forces, because not as in the past that the whole command of the Turkish army was responsible for the coup d'etat. This time it was different. The framework of activities of the Turkish army were elaborated in convenience to democracy. So, but the event was shocking for us, but at least for me. Fortunately, that turned not as bad as the others thought. There were victims, there were disturbances, there were problems after the coup d'etat, but the main danger was overcome very, very quickly. I remember that night, how even people in the friendly countries of Turkey, in the territory of allies, told in television, in television screens that it's finished, the coup d'etat succeeded, no one knows the whereabouts of President Erdogan, no one knows if he left Turkey, if he is alive, if he flew to somewhere. So it was, for us, it was a very, very disturbing event, because it was the question of the stability and tranquility of our best friends in the Balkans. So the next day, or 2 days ago, or 2 days after, I don't remember quite well, a correspondent of Anatolia Agence came to me and asked an opinion. Do you think that Mr. Erdogan will succeed in undoing that attempt? And I said, I believe he will succeed. And if he succeeds, for me, he is the most important leader in the Turkish history, modern history, after Atatürk, because I have as guideline points these two events. So it was a coup d'etat. It was a coup d'etat aimed at destroying democracy in Turkey, in a very, very important country in the region. Not Turkey is important not only for itself. It's important for us, Albanians, as the best friend we have in the Balkans. It's important as a regional power in the region, and that's why we wished that everything goes well. Now we are 4 years after the event. We have a lot of proof that they failed. Now we have enough proof that there were penetration of the army from inside Turkey and from instigation from anti-democratic forces in Turkey by foreigners. A coup d'etat is always the worst of events that can happen in a sovereign, independent country, be it democratic or not, but especially in democratic countries. That's why we still are very interested in seeing Turkey progress in the road of strengthening its economy, its politics, its diplomacy, etc. That's my appreciation briefly, because we need to have at our disposal too much time to talk openly and to analyze the problem.
Okay, thank you very much,
Your
Excellency. Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador Yörük, I would like to ask you the same question. Mr. Ambassador Baleta said that it took time to understand for Albanians what really happened that night. Why do you think so? Why they needed some time to understand? And do you think that now in Albania, is it understood by the public opinion that FETÖ is a big threat, not only for Turkey, but also for the whole world?
Yes, Mr. Dedeoğlu, thank you very much. And for inviting me to this very important, webinar event. And I also would like to convey my best regards to to the other speakers, whom I know them personally. But if I may, starting answering your question. I would like to take up with the issue which was raised by Mr. Bora. Mr. Arman Bora was asking a question like, what was the motivation for the people, for the Turkish people, for that night, you know, sacrificing their lives? 250 people lost their lives. And he was trying to answer to that question. As we all know, in the night of 15 July, Turkish people believe that it's their genuine duty to defend their democracy and the constitutional order. And in each and every city of Turkey, they flocked to the streets and they stood up for the protection of a universal value, which is democracy. But why people reacted like this? Because, as we all know, what we have seen on the night of 15th of July was just the tip of the iceberg. Actually, FETÖ, which is a terrorist organization, they have started to establish their network starting from the 1970s. And in the beginning, they have portrayed themselves as a innocent, very for charitable purposes and education movement. But as the time passed by, they started to show, as they completed their process of infiltrating into the state structures, and as they started gathering their power through the state system, within the state system, they started to show their real face. And until we come to the night of 15th of July, actually, starting from 2007, FETÖ tried to attempt their final goal, which was the state of the to capture the state. So starting from 2007, in 2009 and 2013, in 2014, they have attempted several times to topple the government and to capture the state. So the Turkish citizens were cognizing of the danger which is coming. So on that night, the 15th of July, upon the call of our president, Mr. Erdogan, who was elected very recently by the majority of the Turkish nation, upon his call, people gathered around this call, and they didn't hesitate a moment to sacrifice their lives for the purpose of defending the democratic system in Turkey and the constitutional order of Turkey. Regarding the second part of your question, Ms. Leloğlu, actually, FETÖ is present in many countries with their schools, with their businesses, foundations, NGOs, and media houses. And their modus operandi is the same all around the world. It aims to infiltrate the government structures and enlarge their economic, judicial, and political influence. So, as the other honorable speakers mentioned, that FETÖ's actions in Turkey proves the level of the threat to the security of other countries wherever it is active. So they constitute a direct security threat for any country where they operate. But it's also a fact that after the 15th of July, FETÖ lost its backbone in Turkey, and now it's trying to survive by making use of its activities abroad. We therefore continue to warn our friends. And for example, I've been serving in Albania almost more than 2.5 years. And I observe a rising awareness against FETÖ in Albania. Especially in the past 2 and 3 years, many segments of the Albanian society has become more alert and vocal against the presence of this terrorist and criminal group in Albania. For example, last year, there was a march of victory of democracy, which was organized in Tiran and by the participation of the Albanian NGOs. So during the ceremony of this march, the words of Mr. Bujar Kapıcı, he's a very well-known artist and intellectual. During the ceremony, he said last year, the Albanian people rejects the poisonous food of FETÖ. I think that these words are a very good example as a result of this as a result of this rising awareness among the Albanian people. So if we go back 4 years before, as a matter of fact, Albanian people closely followed the unfolding coup attempt on their televisions in the night of 15th of July. And many of my friends, Albanian friends, whenever we had, friendly, conversations, they told me that they have been praying for the victory of Turkish people over the coup plotters. Immediately after the failed coup attempt, Albanian NGOs issued statements supporting Turkish people's resistance for democracy, and we have received thousands of messages of solidarity from our Albanian brothers and sisters. And at the beginning of your presentation, you said, introductory remarks, you said that you have underlined the fact that actually the Albanian government and the opposition parties were all united in condemning the coup attempt of 15 July, and they showed solidarity with the Turkish government. What I can say as a concluding remarks of this tour, I can say that there is a increasing level of cooperation with the Albanian government in the fight against FETÖ. As the bilateral relations between Turkey and Albania diversified and deepened, the presence and activities of FETÖ in Albania has come under scrutiny. So as a result, the FETÖ-affiliated groups in Albania, they are highly concerned and panicked as of now. And they try to derail the relations between Turkey and Albania. And I can say that they are exerting their best efforts to manipulate the public opinion with some baseless claims about Turkey and Turkey's legitimate actions against FETÖ. I think that they will continue to try to poison the special relations between our countries and between our nations. However, at the end of the day, neither our governments nor our nations, friendly nations, will fall into the traps of FETÖ. And I'm very happy to listen to my friends before me, and they have already underlined the fact of this very fact by their initial remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go back to Mr. Bora. Mr. Ambassador, Yörük said that there's a rising awareness among the Albanian population about FETÖ and the threat of FETÖ. First of all, I want to ask you the question, have you ever been threatened by FETÖ-affiliated groups because of your articles, because of your statements against them? And also, I want to know, you know, in Southeast Europe region, there are different countries who have different approaches on the issue. For example, in Greece, 8 FETÖ members who were accused of being behind the coup attempt are still living in Greece, and Greece rejected Turkey's extradition requests on this matter. So, I mean, some countries behave as my enemies' enemies, my friends. So, why do you think that there are different approaches on this matter, even if that everything looks crystal clear?
I want to say that the situation of the FETÖ in Greece, as you say, the relation between FETÖ and the Greek people is not the same with the situation in Albania. You know that the FETÖ in Albania has a huge presence. Maybe is the second country in the region after the Bosnia, who FETÖ is so present in Albania. He started with kindergarten, and he has gone till in the university, business, foundation. And I want to thank Mr. Ambassador of Turkey for this expose who made about the presence of the FETÖ in Albania. To tell the truth, I didn't know too much about FETÖ, about their activity, about their people before the July 15th. It was this date that FETÖ was clear for our opinion, their activity, their mission, thanks to give the right information in the right moment for every person here. I think that the FETÖ in Albania, there are a lot of FETÖ people that they are shocked. They are they don't know how to do, but the other are in standby. They are waiting. They are not sleeping. They are looking around them, and they hope something. This is the problem. What they are hoping? What do they are projecting for the future? And I think that the relation between Turkish and Albania is the most important for them. As the other said, I want to point this relation, and to say something about relation, I want to say that the fact that the relation between our Prime Minister Edi Rama and the President Erdogan are in a good level. We can't find more and better than us. But I think that this is not enough. Let's imagine for a moment that Mr. Rama will lose the upcoming election. the opposite is there, but I think that the relation between politics, between the leaders are good, but are not strong foundations. I think that will be better if we will build strong bridge between our society. We have strong foundations. This is our history. We have a lot things common in the old history and the modern history. For this reason, I agree with Mr. Baleta when he said that this fight that Turkey is doing against FETÖ is not important only for Turkey itself, but for us too. And in one of your topics was communication strategy and propaganda of FETÖ. Yes, I think that they have a strategy, and to fight against this strategy need another strategy, need coordination, need collaboration, need to have access in the media and to tell the people the truth. And if you are ready to do this here in Albania, this will be good things. Yes.
I also had asked you if you have you ever been threatened by FETÖ-affiliated organizations because of your articles and your statements?
Yeah, yes. Not directly, but indirectly, yes. They are following every person that. Sorry?
What did they tell you?
Not something very dangerous or very important, but friends of mine are talking about my opinion, are talking about they want to change my opinion about the relation between Albania and Turkey. It's not so easy, but not so common in the Albanian discourse to talk friendly, to talk good for the relation Albanian-Turkish. I think that the last history, I'm talking about the history of the communism. You know that in this period, our last history is it's used for a lot of things. I think that that exists yet still in Albanian opinion. So I think that we need a strategy to start to explain, to make another expose for this relation, for the truth of the history, for the important personage of the history. So I think that it's not so easy to make this way, but we should start this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Ambassador Baleta, I will ask you the same questions. Have you ever been threatened by FETÖ?
First of all, I don't know who the people of FETÖ are here in Albania. You cannot go to the streets and notice he is FETÖ, he is not FETÖ. You said this is a criminal organization and they know how to act. I have not been very much involved in their activities. I mean, the schooling. I appreciate that all the Albanians, that schools were open. I have been threatened all the time, but I never felt a threat by FETÖ. I want to be honest. There are much more factors, outside factors, Balkan and outside Balkans, who are threatening us every day. So in that sense, the threats from FETÖ I have never noticed. The problem is, in Albania, there are many, many factors, maybe more than in Turkey, who now are striving to destroy a nation, to destroy a country. They have destroyed a state already. And I'm afraid that the risk from FETÖ will double with the help of the other agencies from the Balkan states, from outside the Balkan states, for allied NATO states. So I fully understand the preoccupation of Turkey, how to limit the bad activities of NATO, of FETÖ in Albania. And I think you should not lose from sight who is collaborating now with FETÖ in Albania, because there are a lot of people in Albania, I want to be sincere, who want to destroy the good friendship from Albanians and Turks. Please it or not, we are fighting with those tendencies for 30 years now. In the mass media, in the written newspapers, there is a lot of propaganda against Turkey. You can read our newspapers, you can watch our televisions. They all the time will say, Erdogan, destroyer of democracy. Erdogan, trampling underfoot the human rights. It's a propaganda waged for a long, long time here in Albania. I don't want to mention who the other factors are. If you mentioned, was I threatened? Yes, but not by FETÖ. I was condemned to death by Greek church and Greek security forces. And I had no time to think of FETÖ. I had the duty as a citizen to fight against all the tendencies here in Albania who want to destroy the friendship between Turkey and Albania. Lately, I wrote an article with regard to the event in Kosovo. Do you know that in Kosovo happened a coup d'etat? A coup d'etat institutional. The classic coup d'etat is when army raises against the power. In Kosovo, is the state institution, party institution, raised against democracy, raised against relationship. Are there FETÖ people? I don't know. But I know that there are Serbian activities. So the problem is much more complex. Maybe FETÖ changed tactics. They joined a force now with all those forces with whom they were not at odds before, or were at odds before. Now they can change tactics. We cannot notice that. You have much more information. I fully agree with Mr. Ambassador that there are people in Albania who want to improve relationship between Albania. But there are also people who want to street and launch slogans against the Ottoman Empire who is coming back in the form of neo-Ottomanism. There are people who want to destroy every sign representing the history of Albanians and Turks together in the Ottoman Empire. There are a lot of problems are behind them. FETÖ people now, they didn't succeed in manipulating the Albanian society through their activities at the peak of their fame, where they controlled all this set of schools. Are they telling those people who wanted to go to those schools and say, now, look what happened to you because of the friendship of Rahman with Erdogan? I'm not a supporter of Roma. I'm not a supporter of any one of 5 political and power centers in Albania. There are 5 power centers in Albania. You know that at the beginning of March, last March, the chief of state organized a meeting and said this meeting is to stop a coup d'etat prepared by the majority. The chief of state announces a coup d'etat in developing. Now, what is the coup d'etat? In Albania has happened many coup d'etat since the day of democracy. I must tell you that I have been in one of the most difficult moments of the coup d'etat against democracy, organized the 22nd February 1991, before the first democratic elections. There was a coup d'etat, an election coup d'etat in Albania in 26th of May 1996, when the opposition, the former Communist Party, abandoned the election process at the middle at noon of the day of voting. This is the election coup d'etat, and the majority, which was the Democratic Party at that time, instead of saying stop what is happening, went further and grabbed all the votes for itself. It's a coup d'etat. There is an election coup d'etat. What happens now in Albania is a institutional coup d'etat. State establishment is out of order. There is a power concentrated around the presidency. There is a power concentrated around the majority, the government, and the parliament. There is a power concentrated around the non-parliamentary opposition. Have you ever heard? Extra-parliamentary opposition, which is treated as more important than parliamentary opposition. There is a power around the parties. So where is? So there can be another kind of coup d'etat. I called it institutional coup d'etat. In Albania has happened an institutional coup d'etat. The justice power, it's out of order for time. It's cooperating with the bandits for years and years and years. So all these are coup d'etat. Who is behind all this? All those friends who come to teach us for 30 years how to have a democratic election, they destroyed for the 30 years our election system. So what can do a military coup d'etat? We don't have an army to set up a coup d'etat. There was a terrible coup d'etat in 1997 with the instigation and the participation of foreign services, of regional mafia, and of state policies. Greece intervened directly in the affairs of Albania. They destroyed the state, they destroyed the power. There was a mess. And thank you very much for the help that Turkey provided Albania at that time, that saved Albania from the disastrous consequences of the Albania. So that's why we had no time. We had no to think of FETÖ all these years. And now we are confronted even with another problem, which in combination with all those who work against the existence of Albanian state, who work against the existence of Albanian nation, can work together. I mentioned an article, but I didn't develop. I said, please, I beg United States of America today not to do the same mistake that Ottoman Empire did in 1887, 1888, 89 during the League of Prisons. Albanians wanted to unite all 4 Albanian vilayets in one vilayet, which was a condition to an independent state. They were late. They didn't proclaim it. Now we are even much more divided than under Ottoman Empire as Albanian nation. So all these forces are working against us. That's why it's our interest as Albanians to have and to see a strong Turkey. It's not any nostalgia. It's our interest, it's national interest, it's human interest to have in the Balkans a strong nation, a strong state like Turkey, because we know one thing. There are no reasons to have animosities and enmities between Turks and Albanians. They have only one interest, to be in good relationship with another. We have no disputes. Since the proclamation of the independence of Albania, Turkey became a natural ally of the Albanians, not anymore a dynasty over all the peoples. That's why we have many other problems to discuss with our Turkish friends. And look at Kosovo. It's a typical coup d'etat, institutional coup d'etat, with the help of democratic countries. The so-called democratic parties joined together to overthrow a legitimate government which expressed the will of the electorate. Now, what you can do?
Okay.
Maybe I'm a little bit emotional in explaining that, but please, Turkish friends, help us even in that sense to understand more deeply what is happening in Turkey, to encourage us by sending signs of Turkish strength in Turkey first, because a strong Turkey is a good natural ally for the Albanians. And I think that Turkey will never find a better ally in the Balkans than Albanians. That's why this one we want to teach, to tell our people. When I attended the Fazilet Party Congress, I was accused here in Albania 20 years ago. And I said, I would go to any party congress in Turkey if I'm invited, because I know all political parties in Turkey are friends of Albania. I cannot divide political parties in Turkey in friends of Albania, less friends of Albania. But they are, and I have proof, because I'm in diplomacy for half a century now. So this problem of FETÖ is not as simple as sometimes we think. Some people think it's just a noise. There is no danger. Some people think in Albania, look, a terrible danger is coming, because they want to concentrate our attention only in disrupting relationship with Turkey. We want to force to strengthen the relationship with Turkey because we need it. When I say we, people thinking like me, because there are a lot of Albanians who don't think as I think. There are a lot of Albanian politicians who don't give a damn for Albanian friendship, even they smile at the diplomatic tables. I have to tell this, as a message to our friends from Turkey. I am using, maybe as misusing the occasion.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will approaching to end actually. Let me also ask the last question to Mr. Ambassador Yörük. Mr. Baleta talked about the need of a strong Turkey. He underlined a couple of times, and he said also that he wants, there are some groups who want to destroy, or some nations, relations between Albania and Turkey, and using maybe FETÖ. What is the ultimate aim in the region? What is heading? What is in their mind? And also, Mr. Bora was talking a need of a better explanation, a strategy. What shall we do as Turkey to better explain ourselves or explain the threat on FETÖ?
Thank you very much. Actually, if I may, I would like to touch upon a couple of issues before answering your questions, which was mentioned by the esteemed speakers, by Mr. Bora and Mr. Ambassador Baleta. Actually, Mr. Bora mentioned that, I mean, we need much wider and strong foundations between Turkey and Albania institution. I mean, he was referring to some institutional deadness between our relations, but I think that we have all that institutions between our countries, and I think we are quite active in that sense in terms of increasing the momentum between our countries. But aside all these, I would like to remind one fact that Turks and Albanians, I mean, we used to walk together shoulder to shoulder for centuries. And we continue this walk together as well. I mean, in our bilateral relations, and also in regional issues, and also in international issues. Actually, Turks and Albanians, I must say, as an ambassador to this beautiful country, I mean, my humble impression is that, I mean, Albanians and Turks are not only friends. I mean, we are actually, we have something more than this. We are like flesh and bones, you know, Albanians and Turks. Why? Because since I started my tenure in Albania, I have attended maybe more than 10 or 12 wedding ceremonies between a Turkish lady and an Albanian gentleman, or a vice versa. So we used to establish, you know, family relationships for centuries, and we still continue to do so. So I think that this is the most powerful foundation between our nations, between our countries, rather than the institutions. Ambassador Baleta, during his second intervention, he was mentioning that he was also threatened by some circles, but he mentioned that he doesn't know. He was not cognizant of which one was FETÖ, which one was not. I must say that actually it's a fact. There is a diaspora of FETÖ in Albania. This is a fact which you cannot deny. And as you know, that wherever they establish their structure in a country, they establish the schools, they establish their own businesses, they establish their foundations, NGOs, and media houses, or news portals. But Ambassador Baleta, I must say that this clandestine organization, the puppets of some powerful intelligence services. They are masters of disguise. They are like chameleons. You won't be able to realize or feel their presence. And if I may say that, you know, they can show 100 different faces in 1 hour. So they are, as I said, you know, they are masters of disguise and masters of deception. For example, this FETÖ people, FETÖ affiliated individuals or groups, I can tell you that they have no relation, no identity with the Turkish values, nor no affiliation with the Islamic values. But when it comes to earn money, to make money in order to finance their terrorist activities, they start pretending as if they have very strong ties and bonds with Turkey or Islamic values. Just, I would like to give you one example. Look at the names of the schools in Albania. So then you can make your deduction and get your results out of it. They are still using the historically and politically important Turkish individuals' names. And they are deceiving, they are misleading the Albanian society by using those names as if they are still connected with Turkey. What I'm trying to say, they really would like to, sometimes, they like to play with the nerves of the society, and they like to, how can I say, you know, to provoke the feelings of the society. And so they like to manipulate the conscious and the way of thinking of the society. And actually they wish to trigger sometimes artificial crisis, like they did last year. I'm sure that Mr. Bora would remember very well. Like last year, there was a you know, monument which was placed in the lake park by Tika, and in this monument there were the names of 250 martyrs who lost their lives during the 15th of July coup attempt. And you know, they verbally attacked and you know, vandalized, and at last they hammered this memorial stone. And they tried to portray the attackers like ultranationalists. I mean, they wanted to actually touch the nerves of the society by playing the cards of nationalism and, to a certain extent, religious identities. But we believe that this provocation was organized by those FETÖ-affiliated circles. Having said that, Ms. Leloğlu, what I would like to mention, I mean, no matter how hard they try in Albania, it's a fact they are present. They are clear and present danger for our bilateral relations, but also more than that, they are a clear and a present danger to the future of Albania and Albanian nation. But no matter how hard they try, they will not be able to cast a shadow to our bilateral relations, special relations. Why? Because as Mr. Bora mentioned, first of all, there is a very good chemistry between our political leaderships, and we have a lot of mechanisms, bilateral mechanisms at different levels. Each and every day, each and every week, we are diversifying and giving an extra momentum to our bilateral relations. And as Prime Minister Rama said during the beginning of the pandemic, I mean, whenever Albania needs, I mean, in times of need, Turkey is always there with the Albanian nation and with the Albanians. So we used to stand by with Albania and Albanian nation for centuries, and we will continue to do so. And very recently, our minister, His Excellency Mr. Çavuşoğlu, he paid his second official visit to Albania in last February. And we had very fruitful and very, useful contacts and talks between our delegations. And Mr. Çavuşoğlu mentioned that his visit to Albania was a kind of a preparatory visit for our president, Mr. Erdogan's official visit to Albania. So, no matter how hard they try to cast a shadow to our relations, at the end of the day, they will not be able to succeed, and we will continue on our positive route between Albania and Turkey, and they will not be able to win at the end of the day.
Okay, so if there are any remarks, if there are no remarks that you want to do, our time is over. There are a lot of questions I want to ask, but unfortunately, we have to finish. So thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador Ahmet Murat Yörük, Mr. Ambassador Abdi Baleta, and Mr. Armand Bora for your participation. At the beginning, at the introductory remarks, I had said that 4 years ago, Turkey witnessed the bloodiest coup attempt in its political history. We should never, ever forget what happened that night. We should never forget that our heroes died for us that night. And of course, we would like to think that the world will be a better place maybe sometime in the future. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you.